Hello and welcome to our new Unity tutorial. Today we're going to learn how to create very easy interactive doors in Unity. It is so easy that we won't need to create any code, but if you're a fan of C#, at the end of the video I'm going to show you how to create some extra interactions for the door with code. So let's start. As you can see here, I have a very simple scene with a player, a door and some scene elements. If I try to go through the door, it won't work because it's not ready yet, but we're going to make it work. So first I'm going to need just one component. It's called hinge joint, and with that I'm going to be able to interact with the door using physics that are in Unity, but we had to make some corrections because it's going to open in the wrong axis. Now it's going to work like a small dog's door or a cat's door, and that's not what we are looking for. So let's make it more human-like, and to do it we just have to change the rotation axis of the hinge joint. So in the x-axis I don't want any rotation, I'm going to write 0, and full rotation on the y-axis. Let's give it a test. And now if we go through the door, it's opening in the right direction, but it's staying on the same position and I want the door to go back to the initial position. And that's why we are going to enable use spring, and I'm going to write in the spring 10, that's the force of the spring. But we still have problems because our collider of the door is colliding with the floor. That's a normal issue that we could have with doors, but there's an easy solution. We just have to go through the door, find the collider of the door, and edit it so it doesn't intersect with the floor. So here below, I'm going to make it a bit higher, and in that way we solved that problem and the door is working fine. So if you're having problems with the door, if it's getting stuck in the movement, check the colliders and see if it doesn't intersect with something else. So now it's working. I'm going to put some limits so the door doesn't go the whole way to the wall, and I'm going to keep it between minus 19 and 90 degrees of rotation. So it's go up to 90 and it's going back to the other side, also 90 degrees. And if we want the door to open just in one direction, we have to write 90 or minus 90 on the max or the min of the limit, and in the other side we have to write 0. And we have a working door. It's very easy to create. We just need the hinge joint component and ready. Now, what if we want the door to be locked and unlocked? That's something we can do with a very simple script. So on the door, I'm going to create a new script that is going to control the constraints of the rigid body. That's how I'm going to block the door. I'm going to call this new script door blocker, and enter. And if I click here, I will go to Visual Studio. In Visual Studio, I'm going to create just one variable to store the rigid body of the door and to have access to the constraints of the rigid body. I'm going to call it door RB, door rigid body, and on the start method, I'm going to get the component inside the variable. Door RB equals get component rigid body. So what we're doing here is to get the component that's inside the door together with the script and load it in the variable. Now on this case, I'm going to check on the update. If the player presses the left mouse button, I'm going to lock the door, and if he presses again, then I'm going to unlock it. That could be implemented in another way. That's just to make it simple, but it could be inside a key. When the key enters a collider, then the door is unlocked. That will be a more realistic use case. But in this tutorial, we're going to keep it simple. So when the player presses the left mouse button, or fire 1, as it's called in the Unity input system, the door will change between the locked and unlocked state. That will be a nice place to make a debug to check if the input is working correctly, and the door will lock and unlock where we want. Okay, now in the game, if we press fire 1 button or left mouse click, we can see in the console that is printing the string that we wrote here on the debug.log. And now the most important part, that is to create a method to switch the door state. So I'm going to create a custom method that's going to be inserted here on the update. I'm going to copy and paste the name. So it's going to be called switch door locked state, and let's start building it. The idea is that when the door is locked, it should be unlocked, and when it's unlocked, it should be locked. And to check how the door is, we're going to create a new variable. It's going to be a bool, and when it's true, the door will be unlocked, and when it's false, the door will be locked. So here above, I'm going to write a public bool, and I'm going to call it open state. Now on the method, if the open state is true, I'm gonna lock the door, and I'm gonna do it by activating all the constraints in the rigid body. So door RB, that's where our rigid body is, tapped constraints equals, okay, now we're talking, equals rigid body constraints that freeze all, and that will make the door completely locked in all directions. Then we have to update the open state, so open state equal false, it's not open, and we have to do the opposite, that we are going to do it with an else. So if it's not open, the door constraints are going to be none. So again, rigid body constraints dot none. And we update also the bool open state is going to be true because there's no constraints anymore. And the only thing left is to implement this method on the if inside the update method. So now if we play and we try to go inside, the door will open, but now if we click, the door will be locked. So check the rigid body constraints. Now I clicked and the door is locked. And if I click again, the constraints are gone and the door is unlocked. If you need to create amazing sci-fi doors for your game with more complex behaviors, I can recommend you Ultimate Sci-Fi Door System. You can find it on the Unity Asset Store, and with the Ultimate Sci-Fi Door System, you can simulate broken doors, you can open the doors with your mouse input, you can set the door to be locked and unlocked with a key card, you can personalize it. So with an easy to replace template, you can bring your own models, and you can customize the animation so the door will open and close however you want, and in that way you can have very easy and fast complex door systems working on your game in the way you want. So if you're interested, I will leave a link on the video description. I hope you liked the tutorial, and we see us in the next video. Don't forget to subscribe. Bye!